The GPS on my dashboard spoke in a calm but strange tone. Recalculating. For your safety. I froze for a second, my fingers tightening on the steering wheel. It wasn't the usual robotic voice I heard every day. It sounded slower, almost human. I laughed nervously, thinking it was just a glitch. But when it led me off the main road and deep into the woods, something inside me whispered that this wasn't just a navigation error. If you love true mystery stories that keep you thinking long after they end, make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. My name is Maya Collins, and I've trusted my GPS more than I've trusted people lately. It has guided me through storms, late-night shifts, and long, lonely drives home. But that night, it guided me somewhere I was never supposed to go. It said, "You've arrived home." But I was standing in the middle of the woods. It was 10:30 at night, and I was driving home after a double shift at the hospital. The rain was falling in thin silver lines, blurring the windshield, and the wipers creaked back and forth like a heartbeat. My body ached, my head was heavy, and my only goal was to reach home, take a shower, and fall into bed. I worked as an ER nurse in Asheville, North Carolina. The job was demanding, but I loved it. I had been picking up extra shifts lately because my mom's surgery bills kept piling up. My younger brother, Ethan, was still in college, and I didn't want him to worry about money. I was the responsible one, the steady one. That's who I'd always been. My phone buzzed. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. I tapped the speaker. "Still alive, sis?" He joked. "Barely," I said, smiling through my exhaustion. "On my way home. GPS says 22 minutes. Cool. Don't fall asleep behind the wheel again." I rolled my eyes. That was once, and I was stopped at a red light. We both laughed. His voice made me feel safe, like no matter how stressful the day had been, everything was still normal. The laughter faded as a new voice filled the car. My GPS. "Recalculating route. Recalculating so for your safety." I frowned. "That's weird." Ethan laughed again. "Maybe it's trying to protect you from your driving." "Haha. Very funny," I said. "Probably just a signal thing. I'll call you when I get home." I hung up and focused on the road. The GPS showed a new route, one I didn't recognize. The screen glowed faintly in the dark cabin, its arrow pointing toward a narrow turn off the main highway. The voice said, "Turn left in 500 feet." I hesitated. The rain was heavier now, and the road behind me was nearly empty. I decided to trust it. After all, GPS errors were normal in the mountains. The new road curved through dense forest. My headlights cut through the fog, lighting up raindrops that looked like tiny floating sparks. The deeper I drove, the quieter it became. The sound of the rain softened, replaced by the crunch of gravel beneath my tires. "Continue straight for 1.2 miles, the GPS instructed. Something about the voice felt different now, deeper, slower, almost whispering between words. I turned down the radio, feeling my chest tighten. For a moment, I thought I saw something move between the trees, a shadow, tall and still. I blinked hard, and it was gone. The rain hit harder. My hands gripped the wheel tighter. The GPS screen flickered once, showing static for a split second. I exhaled and shook my head. "Just tired," I said to myself. "Just tired." But then the GPS repeated, "Continue straight. You are safe." The words didn't feel like reassurance. They felt like a warning. The forest road grew darker the farther I drove. The tall pines bent over the path like they were closing me in, their shadows twisting across the windshield with every flick of lightning. My high beams carved narrow tunnels through the fog, but the world beyond them was pitch black. I kept telling myself I'd rejoin the main highway soon, but the GPS's soft, almost human tone made me uneasy. "Continue straight for 1.2 miles, it repeated. The words were the same, yet the rhythm felt wrong, too slow, too deliberate, as if someone were speaking them in real time. I glanced at my phone to double-check the map, but the screen was frozen. No signal. I tried to refresh, but nothing changed. The blue arrow blinked at the center of a gray void. No roads, no names, no exit. I swallowed hard. I'd been down plenty of rural backroads before, but this one felt different, too quiet, too still. Even the rain had softened to a whisper. I cracked my window, hoping the cold air would help me stay alert, and that's when I caught it, a faint sound behind the hum of the engine. At first, it was like footsteps on gravel, quick and light, pacing the rhythm of my tires. I slowed down. The sound stopped. I stared into the rearview mirror, but all I saw were streaks of rain. I pressed the gas again, and the sound returned, closer this time. My chest tightened. It's just the rain hitting the car, I whispered to myself, but deep down, I didn't believe it. I reached to turn the radio on, hoping some noise would drown out the silence, but the station was gone. Only static hissed through the speakers. Then, over that static, a whisper cut through. Faint. Male. Keep driving. I slammed the radio off. My pulse pounded in my ears. The GPS voice spoke again, smooth and calm. Continue straight. You are safe. The words chilled me to the bone. I glanced down, and for a split second, the map flashed an image that made my blood run cold. A photograph of a small white house with blue shutters. My childhood home. The one we'd sold after my father's accident 6 years ago. I gripped the wheel tighter, trying to steady my breathing. No, I whispered. That's not possible. When I blinked, the map was normal again. Just the gray void and the blinking arrow. I tried to call Ethan. No signal, the screen said. I tried again. Same result. The silence in the car felt heavier now, like it was pressing down on me. A few minutes later, the trees thinned just enough for me to see something up ahead. A figure standing near the edge of the road. My heart jumped. The headlights caught the outline of a man, tall, motionless, facing away from me. I slowed down, honking lightly, but he didn't move. I rolled down the window an inch and called out, "Hey, are you okay?" No answer. The man tilted his head slightly, like he'd heard me but still didn't turn around. My breath fogged the glass. Every instinct told me to drive away, but my curiosity won. I pressed the brake and leaned closer. That's when his head snapped toward me. His face was pale, his eyes wide open, and for a brief second, I saw something impossible. A deep cut across his cheek, dark and wet, like a wound that wouldn't heal. I gasped and slammed the accelerator. The car lurched forward, spraying gravel behind me. When I dared to look back, the figure was gone. Only mist and rain remained. Tears burned my eyes, but I kept driving. I just needed to find a way out. I tried turning the car around, but the road behind me had somehow narrowed. The edges were now thick with mud and fallen branches, impossible to cross without getting stuck. The GPS spoke again, louder this time. Recalculating. Please proceed. I wanted to scream. Proceed where? I shouted. The screen blinked and zoomed in closer, showing a small red pin labeled home about half a mile ahead. I stared at the word. It didn't make sense. My home was 30 minutes in the opposite direction. My hands trembled. I wanted to throw the GPS out the window, but fear kept me frozen. A flash of lightning lit the sky, revealing a fork in the road up ahead. 2 identical dirt paths, both swallowed by fog. I slowed down, unsure which way to go. The GPS flickered again, and for a moment, I swore I saw a shadow move across the screen, as if something was crawling over the map. The voice whispered again, softer this time, like it was right beside me. Left, you're almost safe. I turned left, my heart hammered in my chest. The rain had stopped completely, yet droplets still slid down the windshield. The forest around me was silent. No crickets, no wind, nothing. Just the faint hum of the car engine and the soft, steady voice from the GPS guiding me deeper into nowhere. Every muscle in my body screamed to stop, but I couldn't. The voice had changed again. It was no longer robotic. It was familiar, warm, low, and heartbreakingly human. It sounded like my father. My throat tightened, and I whispered, "Dad?" The GPS paused for a moment, then spoke again, softer than before. "Almost home, Maya." I felt a tear roll down my cheek. I didn't understand what was happening, but I couldn't turn back. My father had been dead for years, yet his voice, the same one that used to tell me bedtime stories, was calling me forward. The car rolled on through the mist as the darkness swallowed the road behind me. Something deep inside told me that whatever was waiting ahead wasn't a glitch. It was something much closer, something that knew my name. The road narrowed until it was barely wide enough for one car. The trees pressed closer, their branches scraping against my side mirrors like fingers dragging along glass. I wanted to stop, but my body wouldn't let me. It was as if the voice from the GPS had reached deeper than my ears. It was pulling at something inside me. The display glowed with a faint, pulsing light that almost looked alive. "Continue straight," it said again. My father's voice, calm, gentle, the same voice that used to wake me up for school, now whispering directions in a place I shouldn't be. I tried to fight the urge to obey. "This is crazy," I said aloud, my voice trembling. "He's gone. It's not him." I pressed the brake, and the car shuddered to a stop. The engine's hum faded, and for the first time in an hour, silence filled the car. I took a deep breath and reached for my phone again, but the screen was black. No matter how long I held the power button, it wouldn't turn on. I looked out the window, and through the thin veil of fog, I saw something glinting ahead, a faint, yellow light deep between the trees. The GPS repeated, "Proceed, you're almost home." My heart raced. That word, home, cut deeper every time it played. I thought about my father, about the accident that took him 6 years ago. He'd been driving on a rainy night like this, on a mountain road not far from where I was now. He'd swerved to avoid something, they said. A deer, maybe, but he never made it back. For years, I'd carried the guilt of never answering his last call. Maybe that's why I couldn't turn around. Maybe I needed to know if this was coincidence or something else. I took my foot off the brake. The tires rolled slowly over the wet gravel. The closer I got to the light, the slower I went until the road curved and opened into a small clearing. My headlights illuminated a wooden cabin, old and half collapsed, its windows covered in ivy. The roof sagged in the middle, and yet there it was, a faint golden light flickering inside, like a candle. I whispered, "No way." I'd been here before. Not recently, but when I was a child. My father used to bring Ethan and me camping in these woods. We'd roast marshmallows, tell ghost stories, and stay overnight in a small ranger cabin. This looked like it, but older, ruined, forgotten by time. My throat tightened. I stopped the car and stared at the GPS. The map was gone again, replaced by a single line of text across the screen. "You've arrived home." I didn't move. My whole body was shaking. The rain had stopped completely, but the air outside was thick and still, like the moment before a storm breaks. I told myself I should turn back, just reverse and find a way out. But when I put the car in reverse, the engine died. The headlights dimmed, and for a few seconds, everything went black. Then, without warning, the dashboard flickered to life again, and the voice returned, clearer than before. "Maya." I froze. It wasn't the GPS anymore. It was him. I knew that voice, the way it curved around my name, soft but firm, the same way he used to call me when I was late for dinner. I stared at the screen, terrified but unable to look away. "Dad?" I whispered. The GPS replied, "Inside." Every instinct screamed at me to run, but instead I grabbed my flashlight from the glove compartment. My fingers were trembling so hard I could barely hold it steady. I stepped out of the car, and the air hit me, cold and damp, smelling of earth and pine. The ground squelched under my shoes as I walked toward the cabin. The silence was so deep that even my heartbeat sounded loud. As I got closer, the candlelight flickered through a cracked window. My breath clouded the air. I peered inside and saw something that made my chest ache. A table, covered in dust, but still standing. On it sat an old photograph. I couldn't see the details from outside, but I knew it was important. I reached for the door. It creaked open with a low groan, and the air inside felt heavy, colder than the night outside. The flashlight beam swept across the room. Cobwebs draped over the corners, and dust hung in the air like smoke. But what stopped me was the photo on the table. I stepped closer and brushed away the dirt. It was my family, me, Ethan, Mom, and Dad, taken years ago on one of our last trips. We were standing right in front of this same cabin. Tears filled my eyes. "What is this?" I whispered. "How did this get here?" Behind me, something clicked. The GPS voice again, muffled through the car speakers. "You're safe now, Maya. You've come home." The words echoed faintly through the still night. I turned back toward the door. Outside, the fog had thickened again, but I could see a faint glow through it. Another set of headlights. My chest lifted with hope. Maybe someone else had found me. I stepped out, waving the flashlight. A voice shouted, "Maya!" It was Ethan. He stumbled out of his car, drenched and pale, clutching his phone. "I tracked your location," he said, breathing hard. "It said you were here, but there's nothing on the map. Why did you stop answering?" Before I could reply, the GPS in my car spoke again. Louder, stronger. "Recalculation complete. Both safe." The light inside the cabin flickered once and went out. Ethan and I stood frozen. The forest seemed to exhale. I didn't know what had led us there, or how that voice could sound so real, but something in my chest loosened. The fear that had gripped me began to fade, replaced by a strange calm. Maybe I hadn't imagined it. Maybe someone, or something, had been watching over me all along. Ethan grabbed my arm. "Let's go home." I nodded, but as I turned back toward the cabin one last time, I swore I saw a faint silhouette in the window. My father's outline, smiling softly before the darkness swallowed it whole. Ethan's grip on my arm was firm, his hand trembling against mine. The flashlight beam wavered as we stood facing the cabin. The woods were so quiet, it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. My heart pounded in my chest, loud, desperate, alive. The rain had stopped completely, leaving behind only the smell of wet earth and pine. The light that had once flickered inside the cabin was gone now, leaving it in total darkness. But something about that silence made it worse. It wasn't just still, it was listening. Ethan whispered, "We shouldn't be here." "I know," I said, "but it led me here." "What do you mean it?" "The GPS," I said. "It told me to come here. It said, 'You've arrived home.'" He frowned, glancing back toward my car. "That's impossible. I followed your shared location. You weren't supposed to be anywhere near this place." I stepped closer to the cabin. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to get back into the car and drive away. But there was something pulling me, something I couldn't explain. I had grown up learning to trust my gut, especially after losing Dad. That voice I heard, the one calling my name, had sounded too real to be a trick. I touched the old wooden door. It groaned slightly under my hand. "I think there's something inside," I said softly. Ethan looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Maya, you're shaking. You need to get back to the car." "I can't. Not yet." I pushed the door open. It creaked and swung inward, revealing the faint outlines of furniture barely visible under layers of dust. My flashlight cut through the gloom. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the air smelled of damp wood and rust. I took a cautious step inside. The floorboards creaked beneath me, the sound echoing like whispers in the dark. Ethan followed close behind, his phone flashlight shaking as he held it up. On the far wall, we saw it, the old fireplace. Above it hung a cracked photograph in a wooden frame. I lifted it gently. My breath caught in my throat. It was our family picture again, but this one was different. We were all smiling, just like before, but the date in the corner was new. The picture was marked today's date. Ethan's voice broke the silence. "That's not possible." Before I could respond, the GPS voice echoed faintly from the car outside. "Recalculation complete. You're home." The sound carried through the trees, deep and hollow. Ethan turned toward the door, but I froze. The words, "you're home," didn't sound robotic this time. They sounded warm, familiar. I looked around the cabin again, and something about the shadows near the fireplace caught my eye. There was a faint glow coming from beneath the floorboards. My flashlight flickered as I crouched down. A small metal latch was embedded in the wood. It was rusted, but I could still make out the shape. I hesitated for a moment, then pulled it open. A narrow staircase led down into darkness. Cold air drifted up from below, carrying the faint scent of smoke and something sweet, like my father's old pipe tobacco. Ethan grabbed my arm again. "No way. We're not going down there." "I have to," I said, my voice shaking. "Something's calling me." "Maya." If that voice wasn't him, then I'll know. But if it was, I looked at him. Then I can't walk away. I started down the stairs before I could talk myself out of it. Each step creaked louder than the last, echoing up the narrow passage. The flashlight beam bounced across the dirt walls. My throat felt tight. When I reached the bottom, I froze. There, in the center of the small basement, sat an old wooden workbench covered in dust. On it was a single object, a small black GPS unit identical to the one in my car, only older. Its screen glowed faintly with a pulsing blue light. Next to it lay a folded piece of paper. I picked it up carefully. The handwriting was unmistakable. My father's. It said, "If you're reading this, you found your way back. I knew one day you might need to. Don't be afraid. I've been watching over you." Tears blurred my vision. The GPS on the table spoke softly, almost like a sigh. "Maya." The voice was faint but unmistakable. His voice. "You're safe now." I couldn't breathe. "Dad?" I whispered. The air seemed to shift, like a breeze moving through the room even though there was no wind. For a brief moment, I could almost see him, standing in the corner, faint, like a reflection in glass. His face was calm, his eyes warm. He didn't say anything, but I felt it. A quiet goodbye that said everything words never could. Ethan's footsteps came down the stairs fast. "Maya, we have to go. The car's going crazy." I turned. "What do you mean?" "The lights. The engine started by itself. It's saying something." "Both safe. Recalculation complete." We climbed back up together. As soon as we stepped outside, the air felt lighter. The fog that had wrapped around the clearing was lifting. The trees no longer looked like dark walls. They looked like what they were, just trees. The headlights of both our cars were on, bright and steady. I walked to my car and looked at the GPS. The map was back to normal, showing a single route out of the forest. A notification blinked at the bottom of the screen. Home restored. Ethan and I drove in silence for miles until the forest gave way to the main road. The first light of dawn touched the horizon. When we finally reached my house, I parked and stared at the empty passenger seat. The GPS sat quietly. No voice, no light, just stillness. I whispered, "Thank you, Dad." For the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight of guilt or fear, just peace. Whatever had happened that night, whether it was technology, memory, or something beyond understanding, I knew one thing. The voice hadn't led me to danger. It had led me home.